Welcome everybody to the Show Me Reptiles studio. We are here recording our episode 1 of the Show Me Reptiles podcast, the Show Me Reptile show. And we have with us this week Mickey and Scott. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
You just introduced us.
Yeah, you just introduced us.
Yeah,
I'm
okay,
Mickey.
well, maybe a little more
I'm
info.
Scott. Now I can put faces to names. How about that?
All right, smart asses. Perfect.
That's what we do.
That's what the whole podcast is about. I thought just being smartasses on camera.
Yeah, well, so for our first couple episodes, we just kind of want to let everybody know a little bit about the team, who we are, what we do, where we travel. So, Mickey, if you want to give just a little history of how Show Me Snake started and how it evolved into Show Me Reptile shows.
Well, let's see here. Show Me Snake started because I really like snakes, and we were doing education programs, and I was breeding snakes and stuff like that. And let's see here. Went to a bunch of dumpy reptile shows and decided that the community deserved better reptile shows, so started doing reptile shows, and people would travel from all around to St. Louis to come to the show, and they started being like, hey, you should come to this place and do a show. So I was dumb enough to listen to them, and I went and did the shows there, and we just keep growing and growing
And growing.
and growing.
And growing.
So how many states are we in now?
To be
Bunch.
totally honest, Brady, I couldn't even tell you.
I know it's 20 plus, and aren't there like 45 to 50 different city locations now?
I think so, yeah. I think we're right under 50. I think we're in like 32 states maybe. And we're getting ready to drop some more new locations here soon, so.
Yeah, so geographically, we go like as far to the northeast as like Rhode Island, Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
As far west, we've gotten to Boise, just announced Salt Lake City, Grand Junction, Colorado.
Yeah, El Paso,
yeah.
Texas. I mean,
Yeah. On the north side, up to Minnesota is probably as far north as we've gone so far, to the north in the Midwest.
Is Minnesota or Rhode Island?
yeah, I think
how that pans
Massachusetts and Rhode Island might be. I don't know.
Yeah. And then on the south side, I know we've got
Florida.
Louisiana, Mississippi, Florida.
Yeah, we're down in the dick, down in Florida.
out. Yep. Those dick shows.
So, what was it about the other shows that made you really want to try to do something that was better? What was the inspiration that you thought you could do better or that people deserved more?
The biggest thing for me was I was breeding reptiles, and I would sell other people's reptiles too sometimes on occasion, but the biggest thing for me was just seeing unhealthy and dying animals. And it was like a normal thing for people to come buy like an almost dead gecko or whatever.
Yeah, something with a 50-50 shot to even make it the week.
50-50 is very generous. Like some of this stuff looked like it wasn't even going to make it out of the building. So,
Yeah, and a lot of the shows have tried to improve on that. I have seen that better, especially at the bigger shows, but a lot of the smaller shows, yeah, it's kind of still the wild, wild west.
Yeah.
I've seen some sketchy shit at some bigger shows too. It's just sometimes the bigger shows, that stuff slips to the cracks.
Yeah, that's
So-
true. When you have 500 tables, it's hard to get around there and take a good close look at every single thing.
Mm-hmm.
that's what's kind of fun about the team. Like there's been opportunities that we've had to go to bigger shows as groups, and we kind of walk through these shows and together and you know, good bad and you know, we've done that at all of our shows too, that you know, we all work together as we walk through and we pick through a lot of things, because it's super important for people that are new to this. You know, if they come out to a reptile show and they buy a tokay gecko that was just shipped up from Florida, that was just caught off the side of somebody's house, you know, a couple days prior, and that's their first reptile experience, is that animal, and it dies a couple days after the show, they've got a sour taste in their mouth about our whole entire industry and our whole community, and you know, all of that, so some guy can put $15 in his pocket.
Yeah, and that's kind of one sad thing, is that people will lump the entire show, which is, you know, part of what's critical for us to be careful on that, is people will get one animal from one vendor and they'll blame the entire show and not realize that show was made up of 60 different individual businesses, but it all falls back on who organized the show.
Sometimes not even that. It's the community as a whole. You know, that just puts the whole community at a bad light. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Mickey, we know a little bit about you now. Scott, how about you? What got you into reptiles, and how did you become a part of this team?
Oh man, I think I got that same story as everybody else. You know, running around to the woods catching stuff as a kid, and that just progressed into keeping stuff, and eventually actually stopping keeping wild caught shit from the woods, and then getting stuff from breeders at shows, going to some dumpy shows. Probably the same time Mickey was. Just I was 5 years younger and not as able to start a show myself. So started vending with a dumpy breeder that we don't really talk about anymore, and then once I left doing stuff with him, I found Mickey. He was looking for people to come join the team, so here I am.
I was really reluctant to bring Scott on because his association with said dumpy breeder.
Yeah.
So I made Scott jump through a bunch of hoops before he joined the team.
It's true.
I'm usually pretty hard on new team members.
Yeah, I had to carry a whole load of cobras home my lap from a show. So
Yeah.
I guess if I survived that and didn't piss my pants, then that was part of the test.
That was just me being me.
That sounds right.
What was it? Just thinking back to the beginning. What was the first reptile that you guys kept?
My uncle gave me an iguana when I was like 5.
Oh, that's a good beginner.
Great. So it lasted a great long time. Did great.
Yeah, I used to catch box turtles and I'd keep them in a big wash tub outside, and so it was box turtles. I was a little kid. I don't remember how old I was, but it's definitely box turtles.
Yeah, I had a bunch of box turtles. Thankfully, my dad actually built a big outdoor pen for me to have outside. So otherwise, they probably all would have died.
I didn't know anything about them. Like, I knew Ninja Turtles, so I was trying to feed them hunks of pepperoni and stuff like that. But
yeah, thankfully I'm a nerd. So like I went to the library, got like every book I could on box turtles, and like learned they probably should be outside.
right.
My dad built something outside for them, had a pond and everything, so they survived for my whole childhood out there. Now the bullfrogs, that was a different story, but that's a 7-year-old with.
A lot of people use those for food out here, anyways.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. So and my name's Brady right now. Kind of this mysterious voice, not on the camera. So we might fix that later if we want to put.
We can fix it in post or just go with it. It's first episode.
I can just be the
emotions.
mysterious voice out there. But my first, when I was younger, we had a DK snake, a black rat snake, and a hognose snake were the first 3 that we had. And then as an adult, once I actually owned my own, it was a little milk snake named Mittens. Yeah, which is good fitting.
So you actually kept the DKs alive?
Yeah,
Nice.
We actually had a couple tiny ones. My sister, they actually had a pair of them, and they had babies, and had no clue what in the world to even try to feed them. This was 35, 40 years ago, so there was just no information out there on what you even are feeding those things.
Baby decays, they look like spent matches
Yes.
whenever they come out, and it's just like you're going outside because they eat all the little crickets. And
Believe
stuff.
it or not, true story. They went into a pet store to ask a lady if they had any idea what they could feed it, and the lady at the pet store told them to put them back with their mother so that they can suckle.
And that exactly right there is why we do what we do. We try to educate everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I guess she imagined that the snake had like 17 nipples for all of the babies.
How do you milk a snake, Greg? Show me how you milk a snake.
Well, you got plenty of musk on you earlier. It's kind of close, right?
Oh yeah, I had to cut that black rat snake out of a net. We had somebody come in earlier with a black rat that's all tied up in garden netting, and it was bad. The bastard bit me like 5 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, but good on you for saving it, and actually good on them for actually taking the time to bring it in here and look us up and find us to bring it in here and save that snake.
Yeah, he was really excited. He sat and watched. I showed him how to do it if it happens again. Told him to get rid of that garden net around his place. But I'm gonna take that little guy home and treat some of his wounds and let him go out in the woods.
So one of the kind of exciting things we just did lately, all of us made this ridiculously long 2 18-hour road trips in 4 days to and from our first big show in Virginia Beach. You want to kind of recap how that show went and what you thought of it, first impressions for the first time?
For me, I thought the Virginia Beach, it's a very nice area. That show has a lot of potential. I can't wait to see what it does next year, but I think that I always have higher expectations going into a new show like that because I see like how much goes into the back end of it and stuff. I think it's got a lot of room to grow. I think the vendors that were there were really great. We had a huge variety of animals there, really healthy stuff. I can't wait to watch that grow and take off, because that area is just, it's amazing. Virginia Beach has so much stuff for people to do. So if, you go to that show next year, there's all kinds of things to eat, like tons of restaurants. The beach is beautiful. I mean, it's pretty neat out there.
That might have been some of the best seafood I've had in a long time.
That tuna I had was on point.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of that show, is that it has a chance to be not just, a reptile show destination, but people might turn that into a little mini vacation. Unlike some of the other shows, like, Tinley, great show and all, but, most people are not that thrilled about going to Chicago for an extra 5 or 7 days or whatever. But, put me on the beach for 3 or 4 days before the reptile show, and I'll call that a vacation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that show could have had a better turnout, but it was our first time doing that show. There's most people across the country don't know about that show yet enough to travel to do it. We were just gathering a local crowd for the most part that just heard about it. But
we still had 200 plus tables and almost over 5,000 people through the door, right?
Yeah, it was a little over 5,000 people through the door. I wouldn't call it our biggest show. We still have some bigger shows up in the Northeast, and Nashville is still a really big show, but that one's going to be special. We picked Virginia Beach because, let's face it, Florida's losing more and more every day. So
right, and to be honest, like, the facility couldn't have been any better, and the staff there couldn't have been any better. Sometimes we go into these venues and it almost seems like they just are combating with us, and they could care less on how our event goes. Those people bent over backwards. I can't tell you how many times I saw an employee of the facility actually walk a customer or a vendor over to us when there was a problem, instead of just pointing across the room and telling them to go see that guy at the table.
That venue was amazing in many aspects, but that was one of them too, because a lot of times we do go to venues and they don't want us there. They just want our money, and they don't want anything to do with us.
They just can't wait for us to get done, and hopefully, we clean up for them and they don't have to do it. That's their hope.
Oh, yeah.
Which also, we kind of partnered up with that tattoo expo next door too. So now it just adds an extra little pro for our hobbyists that want to come to the area.
Yeah, we are partnering up with the Virginia Beach Tattoo Convention there. So big crossover market there. So between myself and John's promotions, we're both hoping to bring a huge crowd in next year, because we just met each other this year. So
yeah, at the show.
Yeah, at the show. So we're both like, this is great. We're doing this again next year, but we're actually going to work together on this stuff. So
like tattoo people and reptile people, there's a crossover, you're saying?
Yeah, there's a huge crossover.
Believe it or not,
I wouldn't have ever guessed.
Yeah, some people who have reptiles also get tattoos.
I would not have guessed that. It's such a weird coincidence.
Who would have thunk it?
Who would have thunk it?
There's probably even some people who have tattoos of snakes.
No shit.
Yeah, I'm guessing.
Oh man.
I actually told the convention center there, they need to look at booking an Oddities Expo and maybe a Comic-Con all the same weekend too, and we can all run together.
No, I think they had Comic-Con like a week or two before us. So
yeah, we're gonna have to have like deodorant booths somewhere at that though for that.
Well, we've got the Show Me Speed Stick now.
Do we? Okay.
Yeah, that's coming.
It is?
Yeah, that wasn't just a meme I shared on Facebook.
Is that aluminum free?
No, it's so much aluminum in there.
So then all they need is like the perfect combination, and put a furry convention in there too with all of it. Then you'll have all of the people out there that are a little bit on the bizarre side or unique side for the weekend.
I feel like we're gonna need to have like boundaries between like the furry and like the reptile show, so there's not trying to be cross interaction.
Yeah, probably.
I'm not trying to judge or anything, but I don't want people getting too excited at the reptile show that they can save for the furry convention.
So stepping away just a tiny bit from the shows, a lot of people may not know this yet, but we also have 3 brick and mortar stores, and that's expanding as well. So Mickey, you want to kind of talk through that, how we've grown on that side?
Yeah, we've got, the 3 stores. We've got one in Troy, St. Peter's, and Rhode Island, and right now we're actually expanding into Aquatics in Troy. We've rented the building next door, and right now we're working on redoing that building a little bit so we can start setting all the fish tanks up and stuff like that. Yeah.
So what can people expect there? Just fish, or are we going to have more amphibians, axolotls, that type of stuff?
Yeah, we already carry axolotls, but we're actually going to start carrying amphibians there. We're setting up an aquatic turtle area. I just have to be very careful with the kind of turtles that we carry because I don't want turtles that get huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're going to be working
for our standpoint and for the people taking them home.
Yeah, I don't know how many red-eared and yellow belly sliders get dropped off to us.
Yeah,
Too many.
Too many. Yeah.
So we're gonna start selling alligator snapping turtles.
No.
Yeah, turtles and tortoises, like, they are their own worst enemy as babies because they're so tiny and so adorable. Everybody looks at them and wants them as a pet, but nobody envisions that they're going to be 150 pounds and can, cause some harm later.
Well, really, with the storefronts, like it's our responsibility when we're selling people animals to be responsible with it, not sell somebody something that's going to be unmanageable.
Yeah, absolutely.
How many sale refusals do you think happen in your stores?
They happen a bit. I know one happened the other day when I was there, and the person got a little upset, but they just weren't the person for the animal that they wanted. So
Yeah.
They had no idea.
Yeah.
It's like, perhaps try this bearded dragon instead.
Yeah, not
Start
everybody needs a retake,
Yeah, I mean, and I've always been a firm believer in, like, if somebody can responsibly keep something, they can keep whatever they want.
No, absolutely.
But there are, certain lines that we have to draw. That's why I said I don't want to sell turtles that are going to get this big, because that's a lot of water.
Right. And sadly, that they'll be stuck in a 20-gallon aquarium that's barely twice their size until they finally decide they can't keep it anymore, and then they'll just try to give it to the zoo or something, which doesn't work.
Yeah, the zoo doesn't like taking what animals.
I'm sure the zoo probably gets like 20 people a week trying to give them a sulcata.
Ugh.
Yeah, the one thing I've turned to the zoo was an alligator snapping turtle I actually found here in St. Louis, because you don't normally find those here in St. Louis.
No.
And I found it in a parking lot in St. Louis of all places. So.
And then there's we have an expansion here in St. Peter's too, which over the next year or so, I know that's in the plans, right?
Yeah, so we're doing like a Serpentarium area next door. It's gonna be about 1,200 square foot. I'm probably gonna display 20 to 30 animals in there. Yeah, that's gonna be fun. That actually ended up being a more costly project than I thought it was going to be, so I kind of put it on the back burner for right now.
Yeah, because that's kind of one of those things, you got to do it right.
Yeah.
You really don't want to just slap some animals in displays on there and have anybody come in and see them not in their best possible environment.
Right, exactly. So something that we're going to do over there that's one section of it is we're going to take some of the more common species and actually set them up as natural as possible to emulate their natural environment, so people can kind of have something to work towards. I could have that open right now. I could take us and just put stacks of vision cages up.
Right, but I think you're right. Like, natural looking habitats, well built enclosures, and then that'll be a great place over time eventually to, look at, like, kids, trips from schools or kids' birthday parties or get-togethers. We could probably get 12 to 20 people in there for a small party.
Yeah, I don't know about. I like the idea of having the tours. It's going to be totally free. I like to keep everything that we do very affordable because, I started doing this because I wanted to better and grow the community. So keeping something like that free for people to kind of go enjoy is.
Yeah, that's awesome. And plus, it's good for us that it introduces people to reptiles, and doesn't hurt that we're right next door. If they fall in love and decide they want to learn more and pick up a pet down the road, we're here for them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many times like kids field trips came through when I worked at Petco. I was shocked they took their kids to Petco's for field trips, but
What a miserable place to go for a field trip.
The education aspect at Petco might be lacking just a little bit.
I mean, I worked there.
No,
I did okay.
There are some people that do, but
Yeah.
I do also remember somebody in one of our online groups saying that the person at Petco told them they had tried everything they could to get the sand boa to eat goldfish, and it would not.
Yeah. Oh.
They probably don't come across a lot of those.
because
There's
it's not a
one in
garter
every
snake.
crowd.
Yes.
But I will say I also worked there when I was like 17, so my knowledge base then versus now is
Yeah.
hopefully different.
So as far as, the future of Show Me Reptile shows, where do you see that going, Maggie? Just, continuing up and away from where we are?
So yeah, we're always working on, making the shows a better experience for the vendors and the people that are coming, and trying to figure out new ways to, just educate people. We're actually kind of working on reformatting the shows a little bit. I've got some ideas that I'm going to try out whenever I go down and do Gadsden, Alabama later this month, and see how they work out for me before I start introducing them to the coordinators and be like, hey, this is what we have to do, guys. But yeah, I think we're going to keep on growing. A lot of people don't agree with the growth plan, but it's a proven model. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if there's markets out there where people are not getting the exposure to what we do, and we can slide in there, that's a fantastic opportunity.
well, the biggest thing about it is, so whenever I was a kid, if I would have told my parents, hey, there's a reptile show 4 hours away, let's go,
No chance.
they would have looked at me like I was stupid.
Yeah.
So, if we can take these to, decent sized cities and have decent sized shows and build communities in those areas, then my goal is being met.
Yeah, and it's amazing sometimes, the little pockets that we find in a city that seems small or out of the way. Like, we just did our first show in Grand Junction, Colorado, a couple of weekends ago, and what do we have, like 1,800 people through the door?
Yeah, and I mean that's a good show for Grand Junction, Colorado. I mean that's pretty good. I mean,
Yeah, and the facility was nice. The
it
people
wasn't
were great.
25,000 people through the door, but it was good.
It was Grand Junction, Colorado, in the summer for our first time show that location.
Yeah,
Kind of a good thing. And we had vendors just beating Sam up like this. Thank you guys for being here. Like, thank you guys for coming out to this area, because they didn't have anything in that area.
Mm-hmm.
There's no exposure to that. People are overjoyed to have a show in that area.
yeah,
So
yeah. That and that's part of the purpose of doing this YouTube channel too, is just kind of being able to reach out and
sure.
to people. There might be a 12-year-old kid watching one of our videos one day and might be like, oh man, I like reptiles. I need to go check out some reptiles.
Yeah, find our website, find out where the show is near him, and get out there.
Yeah, bug the shit out of your parents until they take you.
Yeah, because I mean, there's not going to be an NARBC in Columbia, Missouri. You
No.
know, we're the only show out there in Columbia, Missouri.
And not taking anything away from those guys, I really feel like, our smaller and medium-sized shows really help build those large
Absolutely.
shows. Because, people, like, let's say, down in Springfield, Missouri, they get into reptiles and they're like, oh, man, I really love coming to this show whenever it comes here. But I heard about this huge show that happens up here. They're going to make that trip.
Sure.
So it really all works together.
Yeah.
That's why I don't understand, like, everybody picking sides and everything like that. Just stay in your lane and do your
It's
thing.
not a fight. We fit a different niche sometimes than some of the other reptile promoters. Like you said, NARBC is not going to go to Grand Junction and try to put on 3 acres of reptile show, because it just wouldn't work for them. But it's a fantastic avenue for us to get to people who are not being reached by some of those bigger shows.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And you mentioned the YouTube channel. Some people may be listening to this podcast or watching this podcast somewhere else, but we have just recently kind of restarted our YouTube channel, starting to kick out some educational material and entertainment stuff as well. And that's youtube.com/showmereptileshow. You'll be able to find that out there if you can check it out. We've got a couple of new videos that we've put up. Also, some vendor spotlights while we were at Virginia Beach. We sat down with a couple of top name breeders and were able to get their input on how they feel about the reptile industry and what got them into it. So continue to look for some more information there. The podcast will be located there as well if you found this somewhere else, but that's a good one-stop shop for you to find all of our educational and entertainment information.
I think those interviews with the breeders, the common theme with those was mentorship.
Yeah, absolutely. Both Da Vinci Boa and
Chad Holker.
They both said that they really loved being able to give back like they were given, in the beginning, and what got them to fall in love with reptiles.
Well, and that's what makes these shows and the shops so important, because that's like the front line. You're not gonna mentor somebody on a Facebook group like you're going to be able to help them out in person.
Right.
So
well, I love it as a vendor, starting out doing some of your shows in St. Louis. I love that I saw people come in show after show just looking, and they would come by, and I was happy to let them hold animals and introduce them, give them information. And, it was great that they came back time after time, and then eventually they decide to, bite the bullet and take home their first reptile as a pet. So that's fantastic to me. I love especially when you can see a kid hold a snake or hold a lizard for their first time ever. That's fantastic.
That's my favorite thing about doing this. A lot of the kids, whenever I started doing these shows, a couple of them work for the company now. And a couple of them, are reptile breeders themselves. And I remember when they were little kids getting into reptiles. And it's been cool to watch that over the years. So,
yeah, bringing my kid to the shows, he fell in love with it. He met Brian Barczyk up at Tinley, a couple years ago, and now decided I want to be just like Brian. Found his YouTube channel, and it's like I want to be just like Brian, breed ball pythons, and yada yada yada. And now he's just stoked on everything reptiles and wants to go to every show and do everything he can to expand on that. So
poor Scott. It's hard enough for Scott not to go home with reptiles, but then he takes his kid to the show, and there's two of them that can't go home without something new.
Well, now it's worse because now he's meeting all the vendors and stuff. They're like, "Hey, I got this garbo gecko for your kid. Bring this home." I'm like, "Man, he's got a room in his room, and my reptile room's filling up real quick." So like,
you guys are gonna have to get a bigger house.
I know. I'm gonna have to move.
Yeah.
Mickey, you have to start paying me more so I can afford a bigger house.
Good luck with that.
All right, guys. Well, I think we kind of covered pretty much a good intro to the team, who we are, what we do. So, in closing, anything you guys would want to leave with on Show Me Reptile shows, where we're headed, what we need?
More shows, more coordinators.
Yeah, we definitely need a few more coordinators.
Yeah,
especially.
What type of people or qualifications would you be looking for in a coordinator, and what do they do for you actually?
Coordinators, they have to be able to travel. They have to be a people person. They have to be clean. They have to be presentable.
A furry?
Yeah. They have to have, clean driver's licenses, all those things, because something that we're adding to the shows, we're going back to doing the educational presentations like we used to. And, somebody definitely has to be knowledgeable with reptiles. I'd really prefer, somebody that's a coordinator, know about reptiles and be a reptile keeper.
Any age requirements?
Usually it's 21 and up on coordinators, because it's just hard to check into hotels.
Yeah, and they're driving. They could be, taking company vehicles. So
yeah,
don't want a vendor passing with beer, then that being an issue.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I think that wraps up episode 1 of the podcast. Excited to see where we go from here. Take it easy. We'll see you guys next week.
Deuces.